Hello and welcome to EBC TV. My name is James, and in this session we're talking to Monica from the Money and Pension Service. Monica, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you doing,
I'm
James?
very well, thank you for asking. Thank you so much for agreeing to be on this TV broadcast today. I love the fact that you are here from the Money and Pension Service, but we also refer to you because of the platform that you use as the MoneyHelper. Tell us a bit about that. Tell us a tiny bit about you, and tell us a bit about what the difference is between Money and Pension Service and the MoneyHelper platform.
Okay, great. So I'm a regional partnerships manager for Money and Pension Service, which is the umbrella body. We're an arm's length body of the Department of Work and Pensions. And we have a consumer platform called MoneyHelper. Our consumer platform, MoneyHelper, has lots of free resources and tools, and it's all about guidance for an individual or a family when it comes to our looking at matters to do with money. Sadly, one of the things that's going on in England is financial education is not a compulsory subject.
Yes.
So when lots of people leave school and either go into further education or into employment, that kind of day-to-day money management skills is very low.
Yeah.
So we are trying to increase an individual's financial capability around managing their money. And MoneyHelper, I call it from cradle to death information.
Yeah.
So lots and lots of free, useful guidance, right from things like starting a family to even things like home insurance, pet insurance, travel insurance. And then in addition to that as well, we have lots of tools, and we have a great pensions team where you can give us a call and get between 45 minutes to an hour's guidance. One of those areas is called Pension Wise, and that's for 50 plus. But if you're below 50, you can also give us a call, because there's lots of jargon when it comes to pensions and understanding pensions. There's lots of also people get really stuck around trying to make the most of their money, so understanding like the various different savings products that are out there. So again, we've got a huge amount of free guidance and information of every aspect when it comes to your money or your pensions.
I love that, Monica. Thank you so much. So I picked out three things from that. So number one, it's all things to do with money and pensions. Number two is it's free.
Yes.
Free.
Yes.
And number three is guidance, not advice.
That's correct.
But when we were chatting before we pressed the red button to start filming, there is an area where you are supporting in advice, and that is to do with debt. So tell us a tiny bit about that as well.
Yes, so we are the biggest funders of free qualified debt advice. We're also in the devolved nations, so in Northern Ireland, Scotland and Wales, but that funding is given to the governments. In England, we as an organisation, we as Money and Pension Service, we're giving that funding directly. So we procure in various organisations, so they go through a procurement process. So the organisations we fund are National Debt Line, we fund Citizens Advice, we fund Debt-Free Advice, Pay Plan, and they are also allowed to procure local organisations across England who have the skills and knowledge and are qualified debt advisors.
So that is advice around debt, and it's also free.
Correct.
So there's an urban myth out there, isn't there, that if you get yourself into financial difficulty, you have to pay for someone to guide you out of debt troubles. It's not true, is it?
No, it's not true. And the other thing I just want to alert people to as well is that sadly, due to the volume of scams, and financial crime is the biggest crime out there at the moment, some people are establishing themselves as qualified debt advisors and either giving ill advice or no advice and taking money off people.
Yeah.
In England, you shouldn't need to do that. We are the biggest funders of free qualified debt advice.
Okay, I'm going to go off a tangent here. This isn't on my cue cards, but it's just popped into my head, and I think it's really relevant. Is there also a danger that some people are setting themselves up on social media and TikTok as debt gurus, but actually don't know what they're doing?
Yes, there is, unfortunately. And again, there was something in the news a couple of weeks back. The FCA, the Financial Conduct Authority, is actually looking into that, and they've already started basically looking at these so-called influencers and are taking some of them to court because of the ill advice that has been put out there on social media channels.
And it's very intoxicating. A lot of us spend time on Reels and on TikTok, and you get dragged into something. Before you know it, you're being fed some information that might pique your interest, and then you go off and start taking some action. When in reality, they should be reaching out to your organisation because it's free. Anything to do with money and pensions, they can get guidance from you on. But if it actually strays into I'm in debt difficulty, free advice. Yes.
Correct. Yes.
Correct.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
And just on that as well, to make you aware, on our platform on MoneyHelper, if you pop into the search bar, Debt Advice Locator Tool, okay, it comes up. It asks you whether you live in England, Scotland, Northern Ireland, or Wales. And when you choose that option, then you pop in your postcode. It will, dependent upon whether you want a face-to-face appointment, an online appointment, or a telephone appointment. Once you pop your postcode in, it will bring up all the organisations that you can access free of charge. And the other key thing here is it's all confidential.
Yeah. So free of charge and confidential. I love that. We've met before. So I used to do some work promoting pension awareness 2 or 3 years ago. And we had some amazing colleagues of yours talk about some calls that they take from people, sometimes distressed calls, sometimes calls where there was already a scam going on. It was obvious within seconds that there was a scam going on, and stuff like that. And but one of the things that struck me in that chat was your colleague saying, we're actually quite underused. We have resources that aren't being fully deployed. Is that still the case? Have you still got an awareness thing going on?
We have indeed. And again, I think it's also to do with people, the influence of social media, and the fact that people sometimes are too embarrassed to open up and talk about their money. Pre-cost of living, pre-COVID, it was 1 in 5 that had a sleepless night due to money worries. Research now shows it's 1 in 3.
1 in 3?
Yeah. So I think there is this barrier that people have within themselves around accessing information. And the other odd thing as well is when we say it's all free, they can't believe it's free and they think there's something not right here. There's something quite dodgy about this. But actually, it's MoneyHelper is backed by the government.
Yeah.
Okay, it's legit. We're not here to con anybody at all. But we're just trying to encourage people to really overcome some of those barriers and access all our free information and resources as well.
I love that point as well, because you really stressed the point earlier as well, it being free, is it being confidential. And I'm guessing some people might think, well, I'm not going to speak to them because they're part of the government, and therefore if we tell them stuff that's confidential, it might get fed in, and then all of a sudden government knows stuff about me that it shouldn't do. That's not happening, is it?
No, not at all.
Okay, I love that. So I'm going to go back to my cue cards now because I've gone right off at a tangent, but I think it was really brilliant, Nat. So thank you so much. What are the biggest financial challenges for people right now? Let's get into some of that.
Okay. Well, obviously, cost of living pressures. People do think that cost of living has gone away because it's not been talked about as much as before. But sadly, we're also seeing a trend, and research is showing that even people, it's not just for people now that are on low incomes or no incomes, people on salaries of, say, 60,000 and above are now being impacted by the cost of living pressures. So that's an area. Another area, obviously, for homeowners is mortgages and the increase. Appreciate that the Bank of England at the moment have try to stabilise that, so it hasn't increased. There's some discussions a couple of weeks back about that, a meeting that happened. However, there's still been an increase into comparison to, say, 4 or 5 years ago. So there's that going on. And then one of the ones that'll be coming up in the next kind of couple of weeks or so is going to be the school holidays. For a lot of parents, they have access to free school meals. So with their children not being at school, that means there's going to be an increase in their food shopping and their food bills as well. So those are some of the current pressures that are going on at the moment. However, it isn't all doom and gloom.
Okay, good.
We've got some great resources on MoneyHelper. So, for example, around cost of living, we've got a cost of living guide that people can download. It's a PDF and it's got lots of really useful information there, various steps and actions that individuals or families can take. We've also got things like living on a squeezed income, help with your mortgage rates as well. So if you are, struggling or in a position now where, say, if you're on a fixed term mortgage, for example, it's coming to an end, access the information. And then just in terms of the mortgages aspect, we've also got things like a mortgage affordability calculator. So my mortgage was up for renewal in March of this year, and I used that. And actually it was so close, it was to the pound in terms of what my increase was going to be.
Really?
Yes. So even I use the tools on there. And my family members, my husband in particular, just finds the whole thing amazing and says, just don't understand why people don't access MoneyHelper and the tools and resources on there as well.
Yeah. So you're on ABC TV now, so we're going to be making a big play about using the free confidential resources that cover all elements of money and pensions and allow you access to debt advice. So you'll be being promoted on our TV show, and we're going to spam the country with it in the coming weeks and months. So thank you very much for that. I hadn't actually considered the concept, and it just goes to show that some people are just blinkered to what's going on in the rest of the world. That if you're on a free school meal regime, that actually hitting a long summer holiday break means that you are now paying loads more to feed your own children in a way that you weren't having to during term time. Yes, that is pretty sobering as a thought.
It is. And again, just on that, some supermarkets and restaurants during the summer. So again, it's just about doing that research, finding out, can offer, for example, if you're all going to eat there as a family, sometimes they offer a reduced charge for the child's meal. So have a look at, at what's on offer. Please go out there and do your research. You can still go out and have some fun. It's just savvier ways of doing those sorts of things now.
And we've regularly thank you for that. We've regularly promoted your budgeting tool. How does that work?
So our budgeting tool, it's a tool that anybody can access. It's extremely detailed. So in order to use the tool, I would strongly recommend that people have their various information at hand. So things like their bank statements, or if they're using their app to, have a look at the information in there. The other thing around budgeting as well is you need to decide, is it the budget? Is it just for yourself? Is it for you and your partner, or is it for your whole family? Okay. And it asks a series of questions. It goes through. It even asks things like, includes things like school uniform, costs of uniform. So it covers every aspect you could imagine when it comes to expenditure. And then at the end, what it will show you is your income and expenditure. So it gives you an idea of what your spend's going to look like against your income. And the great thing with our budget tool is you can actually then save it, and it turns into a spreadsheet into your personal drive. So you've got all your income and expenditure there in one sheet, because some people, when they're doing budgets, they'll either have it in one of their apps, and then they might have it on a computer or somewhere. But the great thing with this tool is it's all in one place.
Okay. And because life isn't a straight line, if you've got it in Excel, if you've used the tool and you've saved it into a spreadsheet format, then you can go in and edit that as things change.
Correct.
And things change all the time. You might be on a payment plan for paying off a sofa or something that suddenly improves your finances because that's finished, or you might start a new one for something else that actually doesn't improve it, sends it the other way. So being mindful of it and being on top of it all the time is super important, isn't it?
That's right.
Okay. So I wanted to ask you also, we know people are struggling with rising energy bills, have been for the last 2 or 3 years. There has been an energy bill bit of news recently that sees that maybe they will start coming down for some of us. Where are we at in that regard, and what guidance can you give for someone finding it difficult to keep up with these sorts of costs?
Just in terms of energy bills and what people can do, again, please access MoneyHelper. We have created a lot of really great content around household bills, trying to reduce your energy bills. We've even created, it's called a bill prioritizer tool. And what people can do is they access the tool. On there, there'll be a range of different bills. They just click onto the bills that they're, struggling to make repayments on. And then it will take you down a referral pathway and provide you with organisations where you can go and get help and support. The other thing that I would like to mention as well is there's lots of unclaimed benefits out there. So we have a great benefits calculator as well. And so again, there might be some benefits, unclaimed benefits that they could claim, which would help towards their energy bills, like things like warm home discount schemes, those sorts of things. So again, it's just being aware of what's out there, what they can have a look at, what sort of things can they meet criteria with, again, around the energy bills as well. I mean, it's boiling hot at the moment, but one of the things we try and encourage people to also think about is things to do with like cavity wall insulation and grants around those, and do they meet the criteria for that? The other thing to be mindful of as well is when it comes to your energy bills is, for example, those that are of pensionable age or, families with children under 5, are they on the priority services register with their utility companies as well? Because again, then the utility companies will be aware of that and will put them at the top when it comes to things like helping them, supporting them, with their energy bills and things as well.
I love that. Thank you so much for that. It's a really detailed answer. My own utility supplier reached out to us last winter and said, if you would use if you could change your utility usage timings to after, say, 6:30 p.m. in the evening, and you did it for a consistent number of days, we're going to give you a discount back. And so we decided we would do, anything to do with the dishwasher or the washing machine or the tumble dryer or anything else, we'd push it to later on in the evening, and we did get a small credit back. And I thought, well, that was pretty clever. So that just makes loads of sense, doesn't it?
It does indeed. And the other thing just to be mindful of is around your appliances around the home as well. Things like your dishwasher, make sure you're filling them to the brim before you switch them on.
Yeah.
Your washing machine cycles, can you potentially reduce the number of loads you're doing? Again, around tumble dryers, for those of you that are fortunate enough to have a tumble dryer, can you potentially think about pre-drying your clothes before you popping them into the tumble dryer?
Yeah.
So it's all these little ways of thinking about things. I always talk about, we do some comparisons around the cooking and food appliances. Some of the cheapest ways to cook now is using a slow cooker rather than an electric oven.
Yeah.
If you are using an electric oven, that second shelf tends not to get used. So when you're making your meal, can you think of a smarter way around, say, if you're making some chicken and pasta?
Else at the same time?
So can you put pasta into a metal tray and pop it into that second shelf of that oven to make sure you're using, your kind of the whole of your oven and hopefully reducing some of your energy costs. Things on standby as well. You'd be shocked at how many things are on standby.
Yeah.
Why are they on standby if you're not using them? Just switch them off.
I had this conversation with my wife actually, because there was this thing plugged in and it had a light on it, and I said, that's using electricity. She said, it's not using electricity, there's nothing on it. And I said, but there's a light on it. If there's something glowing on it, there's a light. It must be drawing some electricity to do that. I'm fascinated about the pre-drying. So we've got a whirligig washing line at the end of our garden, and some members of the family are like, well, I don't want to put it on there because the clothes come in quite brittle. And I love, because they smell great when they've been dried outside. But I said, well, why don't you dry them mostly out there and then put them in the tumble dryer to just soften them up, because there's warmth in that, and then they come out softer. So that's that, isn't it? It's pre-drying.
That's exactly what I do, because my towels come out really rough.
Yeah.
So I just pop them in the dryer for like 5 minutes and it makes them lovely and fluffy again. So there you go. But I've not used the dryer for more than 5 minutes.
Okay, that is brilliant. So that is the big tip from this one today. Pre-dry your clothes, especially during the summer when we're all moaning about how hot it is. Let's at least use the power of the sun to help us have our lower utility costs.
That's right. And if I could just mention as well, on MoneyHelper, we have, again, lots of information, but we also have links to other sites. And if our consumers haven't already, then I would strongly recommend them becoming a member of Money Saving Expert.
Yeah.
2 reasons. First of all, you get an email literally on a weekly basis with lots of really useful information.
Yeah.
Secondly, they've created an energy club. Okay. And the great thing with the Energy Club is you can then compare the best energy deals. And again, this is all free.
Yeah.
So please have a think about that.
I'm really glad you mentioned Money Saving Expert, because I wondered whether or not you were friends of, or whether they were like a competitor, because they kind of do stuff that's helpful as well, and you're doing stuff that's helpful. I'm really glad you positively mentioned them, because I was going to drop their name in.
No. We work work alongside them, and in fact, some of our colleagues in the pensions team have been on some of the live shows, and given some information and guidance around our pension service. So no, we're very good allies with the Money Saving Expert.
I get that weekly email from them, and it's people do get a bit anxious about emails landing weekly, and they feel like they're being spammed. But I know what it is when it lands. I just quickly scan down it and think, do any of those apply to me? Yes, they do. I'll have a quick read of that one, or if not, I'll just delete the email. But I'd rather have that information than not.
Yes.
So it's really clever. Okay, I'm just very conscious of time, so I'm going to ask you one more question. So debt can seem overwhelming. What practical steps should someone take if they're struggling with repayments?
I would strongly recommend the first thing you do is obviously you've looked at your budgets, you've pulled your budgets together, because sometimes in terms of the debt, it might be due to overspending on various items like our credit card spend. One of the things that still surprises me is when people do their budgets, they haven't included their credit card spend.
Yeah.
So it's also trying to look at some of that prevention around managing your expenditure. And the other thing around budgets as well is the fact that sometimes we're paying for things and we don't need to. One of my friends had an insurance for a laptop that she'd got rid of years ago, and was still paying £20 a month for it. And it wasn't until I said to her, have you checked your budgets lately? And she was like, oh my God. So just in terms of the debt then, if you are then finding that you've looked at everything, you've tried to manage, I would strongly recommend that you contact your whoever your provider is. So for example, if your mortgage is getting into arrears, then please go and talk to your mortgage company. If your utilities, you're finding it difficult to make those repayments, do not put your head in the sand, okay? Go and get the help and advice. There's this myth again that those providers are out there to get me, to try and take me to court, to give me a bad credit file or bad credit history. Taking somebody to court means that company they'll be charged for that. And they don't want to spend money on taking somebody to court. They would rather get into conversations earlier on. And if you don't want to approach your those providers of yours, then go and talk to one of our debt advice organisations, and they can then be, I guess, the person who will represent you with those companies, and also provide you with that advice, proper debt advice as well. And again, all confidential.